My name is Lee Hutchison, and this is my mom, Cheryl. She's right next to me, and I have autism.
When we were raising Lee and trying to make him respectful of those people in authority, police officers, etc., we unfortunately inadvertently made him afraid, because we wanted to impart to him that it was extremely important that he listen and follow directions, and that police officers may take it as non-compliance if he were difficult, and that could cause a problem. So in doing that, we made Lee a little bit nervous, and when Lee gets nervous, he gets very talkative but not very coherent.
Sometimes I'd be dramatic as well.
Yes, he will be very dramatic sometimes, and he doesn't follow directions very well. So directions have to be very simplistic and
in a way that I can understand it in a certain way.
The biggest thing is whatever you're going to do, you need to tell him what that is. If someone is going to approach him and say they need to pat him down or something like that, you would not want to try to touch him without letting him know what you're going to do, because that would be considered invasive and something that would very much trigger an anxiety response.
Even if it's needed to be done on normal people.
Right. In our neighborhood, we've only been there a couple of years, so a lot of the people in the neighborhood don't really know Lee. They don't know him when he walks around the neighborhood. And of course, people notice if there's a strange person walking around. We had a case where he texted me and said that there was a police officer driving around in the neighborhood. And as a mom, I went, oh my gosh, is there a problem? Thankfully, nothing came of it, but I always do wonder, do the police officers have the training to pull up and say, hey, do you live in the neighborhood? Obviously, they're going to say that to most people, but he may not even respond. I think most of the parents here will tell you can almost pick these kids out. Once you've sort of seen enough of them and sort of they stand a certain way, they walk a certain way. It's a little bit stereotypical, I guess. But to notice those things and say, hey, this kid's not just ignoring me, they don't get it. But if you turn that siren on, you turn those lights on, they're going to go into panic mode.
My name is Shelley Jones, and I'm a speech therapist. I have 27 years experience as a speech therapist working with students with receptive and expressive language disorders. I am also a past certified therapeutic writing instructor. I come to this conversation with a unique perspective of understanding the communication needs of children and understanding how horses react in stressful situations. Horses react when they are frightened in stressful situations by running away. When they don't understand the situation, their first reaction is a fear response. Children with communication disorders often react the same way that horses do in that perspective. It is so interesting to me when working with students with communication disorders, and how they respond is very similar to my work with horses. Students with communication disorders often don't understand what is being asked of them, and they aren't able to express what they want. Horses live in that same exact world. Children with communication disorders can often be confused with someone who is being belligerent or disrespectful, or simply not obeying what you're asking them to do. If you think back to the Charlie Brown teacher that we've all seen on the cartoon, where we hear the teacher sounding like wah 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 wah, children with receptive language disorders, particularly in a stressful situation, hear language in much the same way. They literally don't understand the words that are being spoken to them. So you can assume that they are unable to follow your directions. Most have been taught the universal sign for help. The hand is placed in front, a fist is formed with a thumbs up and lifted up. Most children will understand that you are there to help them when you give them this sign. May I suggest that the first thing that you want to do when you encounter a child is ask them their name. First, that lets you know if they're able to understand the command. And second, it lets you know if they're able to respond to you appropriately. Wait for up to 10 seconds for that response. If you ask a child their name and they do not respond appropriately, some common behaviors would include them looking away from you, giving you no eye contact at all. They may run away from you and leave the situation. The second thing you would want to do is ask them to follow a simple command like, hold up your hands and show me your hands and fingers. You also want to wait up to 10 seconds for that child to respond. This lets you know that the child can follow your command. They may not be able to speak, but you know that they're understanding what you're saying to them. Remember to use as little words as possible. Children with communication disorders are often confused by too many words. Speak slowly and clearly and on their level.
My name is Erin McInerney. I have autism, bipolar 1, and severe ADHD. It's hard for me to communicate to those when I'm nervous or scared because with my ADHD and bipolar and autism, it makes my anxiety it goes to an extremely high level, and so that impacts my ability to talk to others, and they usually can't understand me as well because of my diagnosis. If I ever need to talk to someone with authority, it would be nice for them to know. Because of my diagnosis, it's hard for me to know if I did the right or wrong thing because I have a hard time deciding if I did something wrong or not. And also with knowing that, I would like them to also know that if they were ever to approach me or someone else with special needs or mental illnesses, to walk slowly and change their attitude to not scare me or anyone else, and to talk slowly and softly to try to assure me or someone else that you're not gonna hurt them and everything's gonna be okay and you just want to talk and ask questions. So approaching a horse, what you do is when you get into wherever the horse is, you walk slowly and then stop every few steps and then wait for the horse to acknowledge you and then to make sure if they're okay for you to keep walking and to know when they're like, you're about to get into my personal bubble, you need to back up and stop. So that's kind of, for me, how if I was to be approached by a police officer then I would like the police officer to approach me that way instead of just walking up. When I get anxious, I stumble talking, I back up or start walking, or depends if it's really bad anxiety, I would turn and walk extremely fast, as fast as I can. And sometimes I look guilty even if I did nothing wrong.